Hello friends, in the last class we have seen the design of windbreaks and in this class we will be looking at the design of shelter belts. Okay. So, this is the third lecture of this module of wind erosion control measure. So, prior to that we have studied the wind erosion, definition of wind erosion, different measures to control wind erosion, what are the different factors that affect that can trigger the process of wind erosion, and different ways that can be used to reduce the wind erosion. So, the sequence of that we can see that in the last class we have seen how to reduce the wind velocity by designing a proper windbreak depending on our criteria design requirement. So, and in this class we will be understanding the design of shelter belts. Okay. So, shelter belts is actually agroforestry practice that contain a linear planting of trees and shrubs, okay, with an objective, with a multiple objective. So, our objective with the shelter belt is to achieve, obviously, to reduce the wind speed, that is the first criteria, okay, to protect soil, then to improve the water quality, water and air quality over that region, because these shelter belts are actually we are designing for bigger area. So, lengths are bigger. So, we are talking about large scale here compared to the for protection for farmstead. Okay. So, improving air and water quality, enhancing wildlife habitat or improving the biodiversity of that region, and obviously beautifying the landscape. So, these are the different objectives, but our main objective is to reduce the wind speed and protect the soil. Okay. So, there are different types of shelter belts, and these shelter belts are can be named after different names depending on their objectives. So, like farmyard, farmyard, field shelter belts, roadside shelter belts, livestock, wildlife and riparian shelter belts. So, all of them have different objectives, and depending on their objective their design or their design parameter changes. Okay. Now, before planning of shelter belts, we need to understand, we need to see the following points. Actually, we need to understand different things before planning any shelter belts. So, we need to select most effective location which will be effective for planting a shelter belt. Okay. So, the design must take into account of proper spacing to allow optimum tree growth and the use of maintenance equipment. Okay. So, sometimes although our objective is to reduce the wind speed and protect the our structure, but you need to consider other factors also. You need to provide sufficient space as well for optimum tree growth, as well as to perform some kind of maintenance activity. So, we need some excess length as well. Okay. So, the design must take into account of these parameters like proper spacing to allow optimum tree growth and the use of maintenance equipment. Then select a tree species or shrub species or a combination of that are very well adapted to the current climate conditions of that region. Okay. So, it is not like we can plant any tree or any shrub, but only those trees or shrubs which can provide a better protection to us, or which are most adapted to that current climate or that region. So, that kind of species or combination of species of trees and shrub should be selected. Okay. Now, after that, prepare a planting site and fence areas to exclude the livestock. Okay. So, when you are preparing the shelter belts, so while preparing a planting site, fence it, because for some time actually you should have some protection from the wild animals or livestock. Okay. So, when they while they acquire some kind of some level of height or some growth, till that time you need some kind of protection. Then you need to provide some care and protection to young seedlings. It means till the time it develops or it matures, you need to provide protection to the designed or to the planted shelter belts, and you need to control weeds over that region to have better growth in the shelter belts. Okay. So, the controls of weeds after shelter belt establishment, that should be in your planning step. Okay. Now, then the selection of trees and shrubs. Okay. So, this is one of the most important part of shelter belt selection, because by selecting a particular species, you are not only selecting a particular species, but you are selecting a combination which has some kind of height, density, and which can protect, which can give you a protection to some particular distance. Okay. So, all these factors are depend on proper selection of trees and shrubs. Okay. So, the denser the shelter belt is, the greater the wind protection you will get, but again that depends on your design requirement or design need. Okay. The shrubs provide excellent snow trapping and wind protection over short distance due to their density and limited height. So, suppose if you are interested in addition to the wind protection, you also want protection from snow also. So, you can also think of planting some smaller shrubs which can provide an excellent protecting cover against the snow. Okay. So, the shrub provide excellent snow trapping and wind protection over a short distance due to their ability, due to their density and limited height. Okay. So, the combination of different trees and shrubs should be selected based on what is required or what is designed requirements are there. Okay. Then trees that are actually upright and which have narrow growth habitat, they provide most effective protection. So, while selecting the trees species, you need to understand, you need to be very careful about selecting a proper tree species which will be effective for your area and which can serve your purpose. Okay. Similarly to that, while selecting the trees, the species should be herbicide tolerant. So, herbicide tolerance is important and is a major factor limiting the suitability of some of the tree species for field shelter purposes. Okay. So, there are different factors, as I said, you need to consider before selecting a proper species. Okay. So, for example, in reduced till or zero till agricultural fields with adequate moisture, you can adopt tall and narrow trees that are more effective in that scenario, and also the mixture of trees and shrub species that will provide height and density. A mixture of you can also think of planting mixture of trees and shrubs species to achieve maximum height, to achieve good enough height and density to get maximum amount of protection length. Okay. So, these are the different selection criteria which can be used, which can be thought of before selecting any particular species for shelter belt. Okay. Now, these characteristics of shelter belts are depend on various parameters. So, like height of the shelter belt, the density of the shelter belt. So, density is actually dependent on what kind of tree species you are selecting, whether conifer, deciduous or shrubs or combination of that. Orientation of that shelter belts in relation to the prevailing wind direction, that is also important criteria. Then length of the shelter belt which you want to design. Okay. Then modification in microclimate condition. So, all these things are find the characteristics of shelter belt. So, first let us see height. So, shelter belt height is actually determining factor for area of the protected downwind zone, and it is controlled by the tallest tree or shrub row in the shelter belt. So, as I said, wind is actually most important, height is the most important parameter here which decides the length of downwind protection. Okay. So, let us say this is a shelter belt which is a combination of some kind of shrubs, some kind of deciduous or some kind of medium density trees and high density trees, conifer trees. So, you can see the protection from this can be effectively seen at a distance of, let us say 2 to 5 times h. H is height of this shelter belt. Okay. So suppose you want to protect your this structure, farm structure. So, to protect this farm structure, so the distance of this shelter belt should be at least within, or the location of your farm structure should be at a distance of 2 to 5 h from the shelter belt. Okay. So, the height of the shelter belts varies from shelter belt to shelter belt, and it increases as the shelter belt matures. So, all these things you need to be understand before designing. So, all these things need to be taken care of while designing the any shelter belt. Okay. Okay. So, here we have seen, so this shelter belts actually is used to protect from the wind current, as well as it is trapping the snow. Okay. So, it is protecting this area from snow and as well as wind. Okay. Now, next important parameter is the density. Okay. So, a dense shelter belt will have less wind passing through it. So, the air pressure is reduced on the leeward side. Okay. So, the air pressure will be reduced on the leeward side, that will make, okay. So, the air pressure will be reduced on leeward side of the dense shelter belt. This low pressure areas will pull air coming over the shelter belt downward and will create a turbulence over that region. So, suppose this is your shelter belt, this is around one section if you see. So, you can see the effectiveness of this reduction in wind speed can be visible at a length of 2 to 5 h here, and on the windward side, and here you can see 10 to 20 h side. But you can see here, as the air rushes through it, the low pressure which is there will pull this air here, and in the absence of very high density, in the absence of porous barrier here, so there will be lot of turbulence here. So, the effective distance of protection will be reduced. Okay. So, so what we say, a dense shelter belt will have less wind passing through it, and it will reduce the pressure on the leeward side, and which will reduce the length of protection. Okay. So, the zone of protection is somewhat similar behind this. So we can see because of this, the zone of protection is somewhat smaller behind the dense shelter belt. So, if the shelter belt is very dense, so zone of protection will be relatively smaller as compared to the porous shelter belt. Okay. So, for less dense shelter belt, the density of shelter belt is less or porous, more air can pass through it, and resulting into reduced turbulence and greater length of downwind protected area. Okay. So, this is the effect of density on the shelter belt on reduction of wind speed. Another thing is like density factors controlling the shelter belt densities. There are different factors that altogether controls the density of shelter belts. So, for example, number of rows which are being used, the distance between trees, and the species composition. So, what combinations we are using as a for a shelter belt. Okay. So, obviously, the number of rows, how many number of rows we have used, the spacing between them, the distance between the tree, that is the spacing, and different combination of species, that like shrubs, deciduous trees, or medium density trees or high density trees. Also, the selected species composition will determine the height, density, or overall structure of your shelter belt. So, depending on the species you select for the shelter belt, the height of the structure, height, density, and the length of protection will be determined. Okay. So, this example so this is another image which explain the density. Okay. So, there are, so if our goal is to reduce the soil erosion and evenly distribute the snow. So, in that case a smaller density would be favorable for the field shelter belt. So, as I said, there are different shelter belt. So, in case of field shelter belts, where our objective is to reduce soil erosion and even distribution of snow, in that case we need low to medium density shelter belts. So, these are the different density of different range, different kinds of tree with different density. So, this is actually low density of shelter belt tree species. This is medium, high and high. So, you can see here when you are choosing a very low density very low density tree species as a shelter belt, then it allows more air to pass through it. So, it depends on your requirement. So, although the effect of downwind reduction will be more here, but suppose if your requirement is to trap snow also and to reduce the effect of temperature, wind temperature, then in that case this will not be the effective. Okay. So, in case of medium high, it can allow some part of air to pass through it. So, with some relatively higher density compared to the low shelter belts. So, it can serve your purpose, but it should be planted in combination with some different combination of trees with different densities. Okay. And similarly, this is a conifer which will be most effective to trap snow and to protect from the temperature effect of wind. Okay. Now, orientation, as we discussed. So, the once you finalize your location, so you should know the prevailing wind direction. So, once you know the prevailing wind direction, you can go for multiple leg shelter belts. Okay. So, in a region which is having variable winds, variable in terms of magnitude as well as direction. So, in that case you can say multiple leg shelter belts. So, most effective, the effectiveness of shelter belts are most or we can say shelter belts are most effective when they are oriented at right angles to the prevailing wind. Okay. So, field crops such as field crops usually need protection from hot and dry summer winds, abrasive wind blown and soil particle, whereas farmyards and field lot they need protection from more than one direction. So, this is like based on your requirement. Okay. So, and the variation of wind in different direction over a year, you can select the orientation of your shelter belt. Okay. So, as I said, in case of farmyards or field lots, the protection is required from more than one direction. So, in that case you need to think of multiple leg shelter belts. Okay. Whereas, in case of field crops, if you know the prevailing wind is only in one direction and it is mostly from one direction and your whole purpose is to reduce the effect of wind effect of soil erosion and reduce the wind speed, then you can go for most dominant orientation. But again, if the wind speeds are changing, then you have to think of different leg of multiple leg of shelter belts. Okay. Then the next parameter is the length. Okay. The shelter belt length determines the amount of protected area. Okay. So, for this shelter belt, so this will be the let us say amount of protected area. So, length of shelter belt determines the amount of protected area downwind of the wind barrier. Okay. So, in order to reduce the influence of end turbulence, so as I said, the L by H ratio in the previous class also, the L by H ratio should be 10:1. So, also the shelter belt should be continuous and there should not be any gap. Okay. Because gap can become funnels and that concentrate wind flow, so that wind speed is accelerated over the end. Okay. Over the end or wherever the gap is present. So, suppose this is a shelter belt if you are planning and there is some gap and prevailing wind direction is in this direction. Okay. So, the wind speed will be more over this region. Okay. So, the effectiveness of your shelter belt or the effective protected area will get reduced. Okay. So, gap should be avoided, but in case if you want some length, so you can, so in shelter belts we are actually planning multiple rows. So, you can stagger actually. Okay. So, you can give access, suppose prevailing wind direction is like this is, you can stagger the different rows and provide the access. Okay. Then modification in microclimate conditions. So, because of these shelter belts, the temperature, different meteorological or different microclimate variables will get affected. So, most importantly, that air temperature and humidity will rise. Okay. There will be reduction in soil moisture evaporation and plant water loss. Okay. So, evaporation will be reduced and there will be increase in soil moisture, but the loss because of evaporation will be reduced. At a distance of 10 h from this shelter belt, that is on leeward side of the belt, you can see daily air temperatures are warmer than the open field condition. Okay. Also, there will be increase in soil temperature. So, if you compare two cases like bare soil, compared to the bare soil, the soil which are covered with vegetation, they will have low soil temperature. So, more soil temperature will be observed over the bare soil. Okay. Then increase in relative humidity and soil moisture. Okay. So, sometimes this increase in relative humidity, it should not be, as I said, the selection of species are such that sometimes the relative humidity is too high. Suppose if relative humidity is too high, then there are chances of attacks from the pesticide, pests and disease. Okay. So, these are the these are the conditions, these are the microclimate variable that are affected, that are modified because of the placement of shelter belt. Now, we will see the different types of shelter belts. So, first this is the farm yard shelter belt, which is generally used to protect the farm structure, maybe a temporary structure or permanent structure or a combination of different things. To mostly protect the farm structure, we use this farm yard shelter belt. Okay. So, to design that, the farm structure should be located at least located within the distance of 2 to 7 times h of the h here is the height of shelter belt. So, building should be or structure should be located within a maximum speed reduction zone, that is 2 to 7 h. Okay, 2 to 7 h. Okay. So, these are the different things which we need to consider while designing farmyard shelter belts. So, location and shape of the shelter belts, at what location we are planning, then why we need a protection, whether we need protection for winter conditions like protection from wind temperature, or do we need protection from summer like dry and dusty winds. Okay. So, depending on that we have to design the farmyard shelter belts. Okay. Similarly, avoid excess opening in the shelter belts in the direction of prevailing winds. So, this is a wrong way here to provide access here. Okay. So, if the prevailing wind direction is like this, so this is a wrong way to provide access to the shelter belts. Okay. So, the correct way is to have some kind of buffer or stagger the row actually, so that effect of this opening can be reduced. Okay. So, there is some angle is there. So, that kind of measures can be adopted. Now, the farmyard shelter belts should consist of combination of different species and trees or shrub which have different properties, such as they should be tall, they should be fast growing, they should be long lived, and they should provide sufficient density, they should have sufficient density. Okay. So, these are the different this example shows the typical 5-row shelter belt, which is a combination of multiple rows. Okay. So, the first row, which is of very low density, very low height, Okay. So, here the row 1 is mostly shrubs. Okay. So, row 2 is also relatively lesser density than the coniferous tree. So, this is row 2 and row 3. So, these two are the deciduous trees, and then row 4 and row 5, 2 rows of coniferous or high density shelter belts. Okay. So, if you have the some design, if you have the area constraints, in that case also you can say select different combination of this shelter belt, different rows of shelter belts. So, shelter belts fewer than 5 rows can also be think of. So, the combination of rows 1 or 2, 1 or 2 or 1 or 3 or 2 or 3. So, for 3 row shelter belts also you can think of combination of row number 1, 2, 3 or different combination. Okay. So, these are different combination that should be selected based on your design requirement and the constraints, area constraint. Similarly, this is actually the spacing requirement for different combinations actually. So, for shrubs mostly the spacing should be around 0.3 to 1 meters. For deciduous the spacing should be around 2 to 2.5, whereas for highly dense coniferous tree the spacing can be 3.5 meter. Okay. Now, next is the fill shelter belts. Okay. So, in fill shelter belts are combination of different rows and trees. Fill shelter belts are rows of trees and shrubs that are planted on agriculture land with an objective to protect the crops from soil and wind erosion. To protect the soil from to protect the crop and soil from wind erosion, and also to provide protection against the snow and to improve the microclimate conditions. So, these fill shelter belts are nothing but the combination of some trees and rows with an objective to protect crop or agricultural land. So, this protection can be either against the wind erosion or snow, or with an objective to improve the microclimate. So, this is one example of design of fill shelter belts. Okay. So, the first shelter belt, suppose this is your this is a main road, and so the first shelter belt should be on the extreme side of the field. So, suppose the prevailing winds are here actually. So, it should be at least around 45 meter from the road. So, it should be placed at the extreme west side of the field. So, this is your field which is of let us say 64 hectare. Okay. So, the first shelter belt, first row of this shelter belt is placed at a distance of 45 meter, which is let us say extreme west side of this field, and remaining rows can be placed depending on the area available. Okay. So, the remaining shelter belts can be placed dividing based on the area available. Okay. Now, spacing. So, the spacing between these two shelter belts can be kept as 200 to 250 meters. Okay. And number of rows, let us say suppose here the field size was 64 hectare. So, for this 64 hectares you can think of 4 rows. Okay. So, and this row should be the perpendicular to the prevailing wind. So, that is a one thing. And so, in case if you want to provide some access lane or to move your farm equipments, okay, from one place to another place. So, what you can do, you can put some staggered row. So, this placement can be in some kind of staggered manner, okay, so that you will get some adequate room at the row end for equipment access and reduce the effect of wind funnel. So, okay. Okay. So, this was designed for shelter belts, field shelter belt. So, next is roadside shelter belts. So, I am explaining this in briefly. So, purpose of roadside shelter belts is to protect the field from dust and to trap snow from the roadsides. Okay. So, suppose this was your field. Okay. Okay. So, and this is a highway. So, the proposed roadside belt should be at least 30 meter away. Ideally, it should be around 90 meter, but ideal, at least it should be 30 meter away from the highway. So, and there are different measures, actually different designs steps, but since our objective is not to design for roadside shelter belts, I am just explaining briefly here. Similarly, the livestock shelter belts. So, the primary here also the primary goal of this kind of shelter belt is to protect livestock from wind, both the speed as well as temperature, and lower animal stress, improve animal health and increase feeding efficiency. Okay. So, the purpose of this livestock shelter belt was to protect the animal. Okay. So, in this case actually we mostly use the high density, very high density of shelter belts, trees with very high density. Okay. So, to reduce the temperature effect of wind. Now, similarly, the next is the wildlife shelter belts. So, it's an the purpose of wildlife shelter belt is to promote greater biodiversity. So, wildlife habitat that provides food, nesting and shelter belts required varieties of combination of trees and shrubs and other plants. Okay. So, our purpose here is to protect the wildlife habitat here. So, in that case we can think of multiple row shelter belts. Multiple row shelter belts can be designed and established to provide superior wind reduction and to create a better habitat for wildlife. So, this is objective here is to promote the biodiversity. So, this is one example of wildlife shelter belts. Here we are using different combination of tree species. So, on the windward side, starting from the shrubs with lower height and lower density trees and shrubs. At the middle, the coniferous tree with very high density. Okay. And again towards the leeward side, we can follow the similar pattern. Okay. So, this is a overall is one example of wildlife shelter belt. So, it is a combination of multiple trees and shrub to make a better wildlife habitat for improving the wildlife habitat. Okay. Now, next is the riparian shelter belts. So, the purpose of riparian shelter belt is to create a buffer zone. Okay. So, the purpose of this riparian shelter belts is to create a buffer zone between the agricultural land and bodies and water bodies, including floodplain and wetlands. So, these are most effective soil and water conservation measure actually, which can be used as a large scale along the side of the river actually. Okay. So, what is the benefit of this riparian shelter belt? So, riparian buffer or riparian shelter belt, they can provide or they can stabilize the bank which is under erosion. They can stabilize the eroding bank or shorelines of adjacent water bodies. They can protect the water quality by acting an organic filter. They can protect the water body by acting an organic filter by trapping sediments and harmful chemicals going directly to the water body. Okay. It can be a source of food for diverse upland wildlife. Okay. And it can also improve the aquatic and terrestrial habitats for fish, wildlife and organism. Okay. So, so these are the different benefits of riparian buffer. First, so we can get protection from the erosion, then we can trap the excessive harmful sediments going to the water body, and it can improve the aquatic life and terrestrial habitats over that region, and also it can provide source to the wildlife habitat which are upland to the riparian shelter belts. Okay. So, in this class actually we have seen we have seen the shelter belts, definition of shelter belts, what are the different types, different factors that affect the shelter belts, what are the different parameters, that affect the effectiveness of shelter belt, or they can provide which can be which can have a governing role in providing the effective protection area, such as density, height, then combination of different trees and species, and length. And we have also seen the different types of shelter belts with different objectives. Okay, so like farmyard shelter belt, field shelter belt, livestock shelter belt, roadside shelter belt, and riparian or wildlife shelter belts. So with that, I'll stop here in this class for this class. So in the next class, we'll be discussing more about the sand transport and how to control it. Okay. Thank you.